In the first seat, we have Marvin playing Kefka. This deck looks to win with the Thras' Oracle Demonic Consultation or an Underworld Breach line. He keeps an Orcish Bowmaster's, Demonic Tutor, Force of Negation, Yawgmoth's Will, Chromox, City of Traitors, and Mnemonic Betrayal. In the second suit, we have Avery on Nixilis. This deck tries to win with Underworld Breach and Grinding Station. She keeps a hand with Diabolical Intent, Blood Crypt, Soul Ring, Agatha's Soul Cauldron, Another Land, and Ragavan. Jarek is in third seat with the partner pairing of Rograk Thrasios. He's looking to win the game with infinite mana through Gaius's Cradle, using Breeze Caller or any number of other lines to draw out his deck and then win with either Thassa's Oracle or Finale of Devastation. In Jarek's opening hand, he keeps Misty Rainforest, Taiga, Arcane Signet, Forest, Gaius's Cradle, Seaborn Muse, and Wild Growth. And in fourth, we have Max on Etalie Primal Conqueror. This deck's looking to win with Squee, Food Chain, and Infinite Etalie casts, or through combat with Dual Caster Mage. In Max's opening hand, he keeps Roaming Throne, Mana Vault, a Land, Rite of Flames, Elvish Spirit Guide, Reckless Barbarian, and Rionia Fire Dancer. Marvin starts the game off by casting Chrome Mox and imprinting Yawgmoth's Will. He then plays a land and casts Demonic Tutor before passing the turn. Avery shocks in a Blood Crypt taking 2, and uses that to cast Soul Ring, and uses the Soul Ring to cast Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Avery then passes the turn. Jarek fetches for a tropical island, then casts Wild Growth on that island before passing the turn. Max plays a fetch land, then casts Rite of Flame into Reckless Barbarian. Max then passes the turn. Marvin plays a City of Traitors as land for turn and uses it to cast Heuristic Study. Marvin then passes the turn. Avery, however, in Marvin's end step, uses Agatha's Soul Cauldron to exile the Rite of Flame in Max's graveyard. Avery plays Spire of Industry as land for turn and taps 4 to cast her commander, Nixilis. This triggers Heuristic Study and Avery cannot pay. Avery then passes the turn. Jarek untaps and casts his commander Rograk. He cannot pay the 1, so Marvin draws. He should have cast his commander last turn. Oh well. Jarek then taps 2 and casts an Arcane Signet. This again triggers Heuristic Study and he again does not pay. He then plays a Gaius's Cradle as land for turn and taps it an Arcane Signet to cast his commander Thrasios. He again does not pay for the Heuristic Study. Had he instead cast Thrasios, then played his land, then cast the Arcane Signet, you could have passed with the Arcane Signet untapped. But again, oh well. Max plays Grove of the Burn Willows as land for turn, and uses it, giving each opponent a life, to cast a Mana Vault. Heuristic Study triggers, and Max does not pay the 1. Max then exiles an Elvish Spirit Guide from his hand to give him a total of 7 mana. He uses that to cast Etalie Primal Conqueror. Heuristic Study triggers, and he does not pay the 1. From the Etalie flips, he gets a Lotus Petal, Mox Diamond, Elvish Spirit Guide, and Thassa's Oracle. It's a terrible flip, and the only card that Max ends up casting is the Lotus Petal. Heuristic Study triggers, and Max does not pay the 1. Max then passes the turn. Marvin untaps and draws. He then casts Gilded Drake, grabbing Etalie. Marvin then casts Imperial Seal, and he passes the turn. Avery casts a Ragavan and pays the Heuristic Study tax. Avery then goes to combat and swings her Trample Commander at Marvin. Marvin takes the damage, and Avery passes the turn. Jarek plays an Emergence Zone as land for turn. Jarek taps all of his mana, paying for the Heuristic Study, and casts Seaborn Muse before passing the turn. Max and Jarek both untap and Max's upkeep. Max plays a land for turn and passes. In Max's end step, Jarek activates Thrasios and puts a Deserted Temple into play tapped. Marvin and Jarek untap in Marvin's untap. Marvin taps for 3 and casts Saw in Half, targeting the Etalie that he stole from Max. Jarek responds by activating Thrasios. He reveals a Force of Negation that he puts in his hand. Jarek then activates Thrasios again and puts a fetch land into play. Max then casts Dualcaster Mage, targeting the Saw in half. The Dualcaster Mage resolves and copies the Saw in half. The Saw in half resolves and Max destroys Gilded Drake, getting himself 2 Gilded Drake ETBs. Max uses his first Gilded Drake to get back his Etalie. He then uses his second Gilded Drake to get Nixilis. Marvin's Saw in half then resolves, and Max gets 2 Etalie ETBs. On the first flip, Max gets Rendering Volley, Mindbreak Trap, Desperate Ritual, and Lotus Petal. Max casts everything but the Mindbreak Trap. Max does not pay for any of the Rhystic Studies. The Volley destroys Thrasios. Max then has 3 floating mana and a second Lotus Petal. From Max's second Etalie ETB, he gets Molten Duplication, Snap, Lightning Bolt, and Phyrexian Metamorph. Max casts Snap, Molten Duplication, and Phyrexian Metamorph. He doesn't pay for the Rhystic on any of them. Marvin, however, responds and casts Force of Negation, targeting the Molten Duplication and counters it. This, however, shouldn't have been allowed since it still is Marvin's turn. Max's Snap then resolves and returns Dualcaster Mage to Max's hand and untaps 2 lands. Phyrexian Metamorph then enters the battlefield as a copy of one of the Etalie tokens. Max decides to keep the token rather than the Metamorph. However, it's almost definitely better to keep the Metamorph than it is the token. From the Metamorph flip, Max hits Slaughter Pact, Song of Creation, Eldrazi Confluence, and Imperial Recruiter. Max casts all 4 of them, and he doesn't pay the Rhystic on any of them. Slaughter Pact destroys Seaborn Muse. Song of Creation then enters the battlefield. Imperial Recruiter goes and gets Treasonous Ogre into Max's hand. With the Eldrazi Confluence still in the stack, Max casts Dualcaster Mage. This triggers Song of Creation and Rhystic Study. Max does not pay for the Rhystic Study, and he draws 2 cards with the creation. Dualcaster Mage then enters the battlefield and creates a copy of the Eldrazi Confluence. The Eldrazi Confluence resolves, flickering the Dualcaster Mage and making 2 Eldrazi Confluences. This happens an infinite number of times, making Max an infinite number of 1/1s and giving all of his opponent's creatures +3, -3 an infinite number of times. Now, Max just needs to survive until his next turn, and he can kill everybody with combat damage. However, with how much Rhystic Studies he's fed, we'll see if that actually ends up happening. Max also uses Eldrazi Confluence to flicker his Imperial Recruiter as many times as he has power 2 or less creatures in his library, letting him get all of the small creatures out of his library and into his hand. Marvin then casts Dark Ritual. Marvin then casts Mana Vault. Marvin then casts Pyretic Ritual, and then he casts Rite of Flame. Marvin then casts Orcish Bowmasters, pinging down Max's Imperial Recruiter. He then casts Cabal Ritual, sacrificing his army. He then casts Diabolical Intent, sacrificing his Orcish Bowmasters. Marvin casts Underworld Breach. Nobody has any responses. Marvin then casts Lion's Eye Diamond. Everyone sees the writing on the wall and scoops it up as Marvin wins the game. Thanks everyone for watching. Since you've all made it this far, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.